The Middle East, a region steeped in history, culture, and unfortunately, conflict. For decades, we've witnessed cycles of violence, mistrust, and heartbreak. From the ongoing struggles between Israel and Palestine to the devastating war in Syria, the yearning for peace feels more distant than ever. But tonight, we explore a different narrative. We ask, is lasting peace an impossible dream, or can we envision a new reality for the Middle East? This isn't just about geopolitical maneuvering or signing treaties. This is about people, real people, families, individuals caught in the crossfire, yearning for a future where their children can grow up without fear. We're diving deep into the complexities, the challenges, and yes, even the glimmers of hope that exist in this pursuit of peace. Over the next few minutes, we'll examine 5 critical areas that demand attention, 5 potential pathways towards a brighter future. It's a conversation that needs to happen, a dialogue that demands our attention. Because ultimately, peace in the Middle East isn't just about the Middle East. It's about our world, our shared humanity, and the urgent need to find common ground. The Abraham Accords, a landmark agreement brokered in 2020, saw the normalization of relations between Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and Bahrain. It was a moment that defied expectations, a crack in the wall of long-held hostilities. Could this be a model for broader peace in the region? Imagine, if you will, a Middle East where ancient enmities are set aside, where collaboration replaces conflict. The Abraham Accords offer a glimpse into that possibility. By fostering economic cooperation, cultural exchange, and people-to-people diplomacy, these agreements aim to build bridges of understanding. But the path to peace is rarely linear. Deeply entrenched divisions remain. Can the success of the Abraham Accords be replicated in the complex relationship between Israel, Syria, and Lebanon? The answer, unfortunately, is far from simple. Syria, ravaged by years of civil war, presents a unique challenge. The presence of Iranian-backed forces and the ongoing humanitarian crisis complicate any prospects for immediate peace. Lebanon, grappling with its own political and economic turmoil, faces the added burden of Hezbollah's influence. A peace agreement, while undeniably desirable, would require navigating a minefield of competing interests and ideologies. Yet the Abraham Accords offer a glimmer of hope. They demonstrate that dialogue, however improbable, can yield results. If these agreements can foster even incremental progress, if they can inspire further conversations and confidence-building measures, then perhaps, just perhaps, they can light the way towards a more peaceful future. The road ahead will be arduous, fraught with obstacles and setbacks, but the pursuit of peace demands our unwavering attention, our commitment to dialogue, and our willingness to envision a future where hope triumphs over despair. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a wound that refuses to heal, continues to inflict unimaginable suffering. At the heart of this tragedy lies the plight of hostages, innocent lives caught in the crossfire. Imagine the anguish of families, their loved ones held captive, living in constant fear and uncertainty. Their pain transcends borders, a stark reminder of the human cost of this unending conflict. Hamas, designated a terrorist organization by many countries, controls the Gaza Strip, holding immense sway over the lives of its inhabitants. Their grip on power has come at a devastating price, fueling violence and perpetuating the cycle of suffering. The release of hostages, a fundamental act of humanity, is a crucial step towards any lasting peace. It's about recognizing the inherent dignity of every human life, regardless of political affiliation or circumstance. But the road to freedom is treacherous. Negotiations with groups like Hamas are fraught with complexities, often met with resistance and mistrust. Yet, the international community must remain steadfast in its resolve. The release of hostages is not a bargaining chip, it's a moral imperative. Every effort must be made to secure their safe return, to reunite families torn apart by conflict. Furthermore, addressing the root causes of extremism is paramount. The despair and hopelessness that fuel groups like Hamas must be confronted head-on. Investing in education, economic opportunity, and good governance in places like Gaza is not just a matter of charity, it's a matter of strategic importance. When people have hope for a better future, when they see a path out of poverty and despair, the allure of extremism diminishes. The road to peace in the Middle East is paved with countless challenges, but it must begin with a fundamental commitment to human dignity. Chapter 3: Beyond UNRWA, Rethinking Aid and Support in Gaza. For decades, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency, or UNRWA, has been a lifeline for millions of Palestinian refugees in Gaza. Created in the aftermath of the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, UNRWA provides essential services, from education and healthcare to social assistance. But the situation in Gaza has grown increasingly dire. The ongoing blockade, coupled with internal divisions and recurring conflicts, has created a humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions. Critics argue that UNRWA, despite its best intentions, has become part of the problem. They point to allegations of mismanagement, corruption, and even ties to Hamas, further entrenching the status quo. The reality on the ground is bleak. Gaza's infrastructure is crumbling, its economy in shambles, and its people facing a future shrouded in uncertainty. A new approach is desperately needed, one that moves beyond the limitations of the past. Instead of perpetuating a cycle of dependence, we must empower Palestinians to become architects of their own destiny. This requires a fundamental shift in the way aid is delivered and development is pursued. Imagine a Gaza where resources are directed towards sustainable solutions, where investments are made in infrastructure, education, and economic opportunity. Imagine a Gaza where young people have the tools and the opportunities to build a brighter future. This requires a collective effort, a commitment from the international community, regional actors, and Palestinians themselves. It demands transparency, accountability, and a genuine desire to break free from the shackles of the past. Replacing UNRWA is not about abandoning the Palestinian people. It's about recognizing that the status quo is no longer tenable. It's about demanding better, for the sake of the people of Gaza and for the prospects of lasting peace in the region. Chapter 4: The Iranian Challenge: Confronting a Nuclear Threat. Iran's nuclear ambitions have cast a long shadow over the Middle East and the world. The specter of a nuclear-armed Iran, a nation with a history of supporting proxy wars and destabilizing activities, is a chilling prospect. The 2015 nuclear deal, known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, offered a glimmer of hope. It imposed strict limits on Iran's nuclear program in exchange for sanctions relief. However, the United States withdrew from the deal in 2018, arguing that it was insufficient to curb Iran's malign activities. Today, tensions are once again running high. Iran has resumed enriching uranium to higher levels, edging closer to the threshold of weapons-grade material. The risk of miscalculation, of a regional arms race, or even accidental escalation cannot be ignored. The international community faces a stark choice: confrontation or diplomacy. The path forward is fraught with peril, but the stakes are too high to ignore. Sanctions, while potentially effective in applying economic pressure, also carry the risk of exacerbating humanitarian suffering and further isolating Iran from the international community. Military action, a last resort, would have catastrophic consequences, potentially igniting a wider regional conflict. Diplomacy, though challenging, remains the only viable path to a lasting solution. This requires engaging Iran in a dialogue based on mutual respect, addressing its legitimate security concerns while holding it accountable for its destabilizing actions. The goal must be the complete, verifiable, and irreversible dismantlement of Iran's nuclear weapons program. This requires a comprehensive approach that addresses not only the technical aspects of Iran's nuclear program, but also the underlying geopolitical tensions that fuel it. The world cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the Iranian challenge. The pursuit of peace and security demands unwavering resolve, a commitment to dialogue, and a recognition that the fate of the Middle East, and indeed the world, hangs in the balance. Chapter 5: The War in Ukraine: A Global Threat, a Global Responsibility. The war in Ukraine, a tragedy unfolding on the European continent, might seem a world away from the Middle East. But the conflict's ripple effects are felt globally, exacerbating existing tensions and jeopardizing international security. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has shattered the illusion of peace in Europe, unleashing a humanitarian catastrophe and raising fears of a wider conflict. The conflict has also exposed the fragility of the international order, testing the resolve of global institutions and alliances. While the immediate focus must be on ending the bloodshed and alleviating human suffering, the war's long-term implications cannot be ignored. The conflict has the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape, with profound consequences for the Middle East. The war has already fueled a global food crisis, as both Ukraine and Russia are major exporters of wheat and other essential commodities. This is particularly alarming for countries in the Middle East and North Africa, many of which are heavily reliant on grain imports. The conflict has also strained relations between Russia and the West, creating new challenges for diplomatic efforts in the region. Russia's growing influence in the Middle East, particularly in Syria, adds another layer of complexity to an already volatile region. In this context, the need for strong and decisive leadership is paramount. Figures like Donald Trump, with their experience in international diplomacy and their ability to command global attention, have a crucial role to play. A peace deal brokered by a prominent figure like Trump could offer a path out of the current impasse. Such a deal would require difficult compromises from all sides, but could pave the way for a more stable and secure future. The war in Ukraine is a stark reminder that peace is precious and fragile. It is a call to action for the international community to uphold the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the peaceful resolution of disputes. The road ahead, choosing hope over despair. The path to peace in the Middle East, as we've explored, is fraught with obstacles. Deep-seated mistrust, historical grievances, and competing interests create a complex and often volatile landscape. But amidst the challenges, glimmers of hope emerge. The Abraham Accords demonstrate that dialogue, however improbable, can yield results. The release of hostages, a testament to our shared humanity, can build bridges of understanding. Investing in sustainable solutions, empowering people, and addressing the root causes of extremism offer a path towards a more hopeful future. The road ahead will be long and arduous, requiring patience, perseverance, and a willingness to embrace complexity. But the pursuit of peace is not a choice, it's an imperative. For the sake of future generations, for the stability of the region, and for the well-being of our world, we must never abandon the pursuit of peace.